for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K. 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K. 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Monday, August 19th. It's a done deal. Patrik Laine has been traded to the Montreal Canadiens, and you don't have to look very far to find out what we're going to talk about tonight on the Sick Podcast. I know some of you were hoping that I was going to go live, but listen, I'm still in Spain, and going live when it's 10 p.m. for you would mean that it would be 4 a.m. for me. So it's not 4 a.m. here. I'm not going live, but I will tell you, it's 1:30 in the morning. So a couple of more hours and I could have gone live. I chose to record a little bit later earlier today. There were rumblings. We put it off a little bit. Then we saw the deal was done. And then we saw that, Kent Hughes was going to be talking. So we put it off a little bit more in terms of the pre-recording. And then Patrik Laine, of course, spoke to the media on Zoom. And then I waited a little bit longer. And here I am. For me, it's 1:30 in the morning, and I'm doing this. And for you, you're watching it at just past 10 p.m. Eastern. So thank you for watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group. They are a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the hot summer days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. Also brought to you in part by Playground. Discover a world of luxury at Playground. Explore the 30,000 square foot expansion with thrilling games, gourmet dining, and live entertainment located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground. Experience the Strip without the trip. One of our collaborators wrote about the possibility of trading for Patrik Laine back in the month of January. That's right. Back in the month of January. And about a month ago, he revisited right here on the Sick Podcast and said, you know what? I would revisit the whole Patrik Laine thing. Why not? And he talked about a lot of things. Obviously, he talked about his goal-scoring prowess. He also talked about the fact that because Patrik Laine was in the player assistance program, his value would never be so low to acquire him in a trade. Some of you dismissed it. Look, I looked at it and I said, they can definitely use scoring. They can definitely use size. They can definitely use a top six. How would he react to the pressure in Montreal? Maybe that would be the only thing that I thought would hinder the whole thing. That and the fact that if I'm surprised about anything, and I'm not surprised that they acquired Patrik Laine, if I'm surprised about anything, it would be that there was not a big contract going back the other way. But because there wasn't, the Canadiens were able to acquire a second-round pick on top of that in exchange for defenseman Jordan Harris. The guy that I'm talking to you about, the collaborator who wrote about it back in the month of January, is Grant McCagg from the Recruits Draftcast podcast. And he's been saying all along, you know what? I don't think it would be a bad idea. And look, I'm happy to say, I said, Grant, you know what? I don't think it would be that bad an idea either. But I did think the Canadiens were going to have to shed a big salary in return because Laine makes a big salary. So Grant McCagg, good evening. On that note, I'm surprised. We knew the Canadiens had the cap room, but when you acquire a player like that with a big salary who's had some troubles, you try and get rid of maybe a player that's had some troubles with a big salary in return. And it wasn't meant to be in this trade, but it doesn't mean the Canadiens aren't going to trade a big salary player somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I just when I was making trade proposals before it was Harris and the first round pick for Laine, were the kind of where I was starting at, and even was suggesting that you'd go further than that. But with the thought of maybe, salary being retained, but to get a second round pick and Laine for Harris, as I was saying a couple of weeks ago when you were asking me if you thought that the Canadiens were done trying to get players, and Pierre had mentioned that he thought that maybe they were done. Like, Laine was still out there, and Hughes played the waiting game. Patient, waited till buy low, sell high, whatever it was. I think it's just an absolute steal for the Canadiens to do that. I think he's gonna. I loved what he said about 30 goal scorer, 40 or 50 is what goal scorer, and you get 40 goals out of him, and I really think, given who he'll be playing with, that's a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
He'll be worth every cent of his salary.
I know what some people are thinking, right? Some people who are casual fans or maybe non-Montreal Canadiens fans, because Canadiens fans are pretty pumped about this, right? You acquire a guy who's got the goal-scoring ability of Laine. I mean, I would imagine season ticket holders are pretty happy because you're going to have another guy on the power play who's got quite a shot. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go out and say right now, he has the best shot in the Montreal Canadiens right now. There's no doubt in my mind. And there's, in terms of the one-timer, in terms of the slap shot, that is. But there's got to be some people right now who are saying, guys, come on, man, give me a break. Laine's been a disaster for the last couple of years. He doesn't play a 200-foot game. He's inconsistent. He doesn't show up. He's had troubles. He's been in the player assistance program, yada, 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 yada. It's not going to work out in Montreal. You know what? Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. But I say this. What did they give up? I mean, with all due respect to Jordan Harris, like, anyone who's criticizing this deal are the same people that would have thought that there was no way the Canadiens would acquire Patrik Laine and a second-round pick for Jordan Harris. If you brought it up, they probably would have said, you're an idiot. There's no way that would be the asking price. It would be a lot more than that. And then this is what they do. They go out and acquire Laine and a second-round pick for Harris. And some people are going to say, what a bad trade because of, hey, they have the cap room, number one. 2, they need a scorer. 3, they need a top 6. 4, they caught a player who went second overall in the 2016 draft at the lowest his value would ever be. And we can go on and on and on as to why it makes for a good deal for the Canadiens. But if he doesn't pan out, they lost nothing. They lost nothing.
Yeah.
Jordan Harris was not going to, and I don't mean to say that to disrespect.
No, I know
Harris,
what you mean,
obviously.
Tony.
He was not in their plans going forward.
It
was a numbers game.
He's 5th on the depth chart on the left side now.
Correct.
So, Hudson brings the power play dimension that Jordan doesn't. Arbor brings the enforcer role that Jordan doesn't. Jordan isn't playing ahead of Matheson or Gooley. And they've also got Struble. So there was no place for Jordan in the top 6 this year. There just wasn't. And I think I'm really happy for Jordan because I think he's an NHL player.
Yeah.
And I think that he'll play a top 4 role in Columbus and be a.
I would imagine Trevor Timmons was consulted, the guy who drafted him.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would. So. I'm sure Trevor's happy to get Jordan, and Jordan's going to be happy to get. I think he plays a full time in Columbus. And it's great for him. It's such a great kid. I have not met a nicer kid. I really haven't in hockey.
No, so good hockey player, even better person.
Yeah,
great in the community. I'm sure he's great in the room. He's loved by all his teammates. And it was unfortunate to see him in a numbers game here where he wasn't going to play. And you know what? They were going to end up putting him on waivers. He would have been picked up and you would have lost him for nothing. And now you get Patrik Laine in a deal. It works. unbelievably great. It doesn't work. Who cares?
2
You
years,
try.
right?
In life, if you don't try, you're never going to find out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2 years for Hage and Demidov to develop and get into the lineup. If Laine doesn't work out, there's replacements down the road. You give him the 2 years. You trade him at the deadline in 2 years. If it's not working out, thanks. We gave it a shot. But I really think it's going to work, and I think they contend for a playoff spot starting this year. The pieces are all there. They just if the young players continue to grow, and I mean, especially the power play, Tony. It's just Hudson, Caulfield, Slavkovsky in front of the net, Suzuki, and Laine.
Grant, this is low risk, huge reward. That's exactly what it is. Low risk, huge reward. And, you talked about the power play. If I'm Marty St. Louis, and we heard Kent Hughes say that, he had a chance and Jeff Gordon had a chance and Marty St. Louis had a chance, all of them to talk to Patrik Laine. They absolutely wanted to do that. And, of course, they were granted permission from the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they did so. And they were very positive with what they heard, obviously, or else they don't make the deal. And I would imagine there was quite a bit of discussion with Pascal Vincent as well, the head coach of Laval Rocket, who was the former coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who knew Patrik Laine really well.
Good point.
If I'm Marty St. Louis, I'm basically I'm
giddy.
I'm so excited right now because it's a puzzle, right? And I can move guys around. Like he can play Laine with Suzuki. He can play Laine with Doc. He can play Laine with Doc and Slavkovsky. He can play Laine with Suzuki and Caulfield on the. He can play. There's so many things that he can do that he must be so excited with all these moving pieces.
Sabsolutely. I on the earlier podcast, when discussing the possibility of maybe getting him, I thought Slavkovsky and Doc and Laine as a line together. 3 kids that are I already come up with names for the line if they ever go that route, like the 1, 2, 3 line, drafted 1st, 2nd, and 3rd overall. When's the last time the Canadiens had a line like with that kind of pedigree? Was it Walter, Bobby Smith, and Brian Bellows? You'd have to go back to that.
Yeah, isn't that something? Like really, that's amazing. And look, I've said this before. I'm convinced. And look, I would imagine that every team probably tries to do this, but I'm convinced that the Canadiens are trying to follow the model that the Colorado Avalanche had, and so many other teams, but especially the Avalanche. When the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, their team was composed of McKinnon, who was drafted 1st, Landeskog, who was drafted 2nd, Makar, who was drafted 4th, Byram, who was drafted 4th, Rantanen, who was drafted 10th. And they also had, Newhook, I think, was drafted 16th or something like that, or it could be wrong. Nichushkin, I think, was the top 10 pick. That was, even if they came from other
11
teams. Eric Johnson, I think, was a 1st pick overall by St. Louis. I think Nazem Kadri was he not a 7th pick overall by Toronto, I believe. They had so many 1st-round picks, and the Canadiens, whether they were picks that they picked or they were acquired by trade from other teams, think of all the guys that have been drafted in the 1st round. Slavkovsky, 1st. You just talked Laine, 2nd. Doc, 3rd. Suzuki from Vegas, 13. Caulfield with Canadiens, 15. Matheson with Florida, 24. Alex Newhook was drafted in the 1st round. There's just the list goes on and on.
The top 6 players are all top 16 picks, or are all going to be if Newhook plays with Doc, and if Newhook plays on the 2nd line, and Doc and Laine, all 6 of the top 6,
they're top 16 guys,
top
correct.
16 picks. It's been forever. So I don't know if they've ever had that kind of pedigree, And I still say, Laine, Slavkovsky, and Doc as a line. I go back to the hippie generation, but that, they could even dub them the LSD line, Tony. They're going to put their opponents into a hallucinatory state. Trio.
I could see him playing with Doc, and I can see him playing with Suzuki. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Well, for many reasons. They're both really good hockey players, but
Doc and Suzuki or Slavkovsky?
Doc and Suzuki, the centerman. So
yeah, maybe.
Laine, right-handed shot, right?
Yeah.
Where does he love to set up? Off wing, right?
Mm-hmm.
One-timer. Getting the pass from a right-handed centerman off the left wing. I can see him working with Suzuki, and I can see him working with Doc.
Yeah.
Either right-handed centerman. And I'd be willing to bet that this year you're going to see him play with both. There'll be times where he'll put him with Suzuki. There'll be times where he'll put him with Doc.
Well, that could be the LSD line too. So either way it works, Tony. They're going to come up with a good name for it. I'm sure they won't double them that. But anyways, those are the 1, 2, 3 line with Slavkovsky and Doc, I think is, I'm just so excited about the top 6 now for the first time since they had like Damphus, Turgeon, Coy, you have to go back to the last millennium. Muller. Yeah. You have to go back to the last millennium to have anything close to the firepower that they're going to have this year. The Bell Center is going to be electric. I think Boston and Tampa come back in the pack this year. Yeah. And that Montreal is right there for a playoff spot. They're right in the hunt with Laine. That was exactly what they needed. There are no holes as far as I'm concerned right now. The lineup and all the young talent's going to just be better. They're going to be confident. They're going to be exciting. Hudson, when he's got the choice of Laine, Caulfield, Slavkovsky to feed on the power play, there's going to be the power play is going to work. And I'm really, I don't know if Burrows, geez, I should have stuck around. I look like a genius running the power play now, because whoever does.
We don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but I'll tell you this.
No.
If you don't make the playoffs, at the end of the day, what do the fans want? They want a team that's going to score goals, and they want a team that's going to be exciting. The Canadiens are going to give them that. We can't guarantee you that Canadiens are going to make the playoffs. I can guarantee you that the Canadiens are going to be fun to watch. There's no doubt about it. Take a look at what Marty St. Louis has been doing with this group over the last couple of years. And you inject a guy, you threw out something. This was something that really surprised me. It was a chart when I saw him, he's in pretty elite company for the most goals scored in the National Hockey League when he was under the age of 20.
That's right. And I got this. It was posted by Stéphane Leroux. So we'll have to give Stéphane some credit for that.
From RDS. Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. So Stéphane Leroux posted the players who scored the most amount of goals under the age of 20. Gretzky had 106. Carson had 92. Dale Hawerchuk had 85. And Patrik Laine had 80. That's pretty elite company.
It is. And I really liked what he said about, he welcomes pressure. And I mean, in those articles that I wrote 2 articles, one in January and one at the end of April. I mentioned anytime he's played in high pressure situations when it was important hockey.
Yeah.
Because in Columbus and Winnipeg, there was only one time that he played playoff hockey of any consequence with those 2 teams. He was 19 years old. Winnipeg won on their longest playoff run in team history. He had 12 points. I had a look, and I looked at teenagers who have scored 12 plus points in one playoff. I'm gonna list to you some players that did not score 12 or more points in the playoffs before the age of 20. Gretzky, Lemieux, Crosby, Ovechkin, Messier, Yzerman, Sakic, Howe, Richard, Beliveau, Lafleur, and Lindros. None of them scored 12 points in a playoff before 20 years of age.
90% of which pretty much the best to ever play the game.
Austin Matthews, who was picked ahead of him, he is to this day the new captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He has not had 12 points in a playoff year.
Okay, so no, those are all facts. Now, look, in order to provide some fair journalism here, let me just say this, okay? If there's a concern that I have, and once again, I'm going on record as saying I love this because I don't think they have anything to lose. You know, maybe somebody's going to say, well, he's going to come in and he's going to infest the locker room. That's great. They're not going to let it get to that point. The Canadiens leadership, that Marty St. Louis, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, they will not let it get to that point. And by the way, should it get to that point, you know what? 2 years on a contract goes pretty fast. Okay. The one concern that I have, but I still stand by the fact that I would have made this trade in a heartbeat. The one concern that I have is it's all fine and dandy to say that you relish the pressure and you're walking, you know, you want to play in Montreal. Montreal's a different beast. Montreal's a different animal. There's a lot of pressure. And the reason why I say that, Jonathan Drouin said the exact same thing. Remember that? Jonathan Drouin said the exact same thing when he was acquired, that he relished the pressure. He wanted to play in Montreal, and he played his best under pressure, right? He talked about the fact the playoffs that he had with the Tampa Bay Lightning, where I think he put up 14 points in 17 games after that season where he had that little bit of a kerfuffle with Steve Yzerman and John Cooper and all that stuff. And people who know Drouin well told me the same thing. Oh, Tony, you know, he's always thrived under pressure. He's always thrived under pressure. And the fact of the matter is that Drouin.
Not sure, Tony. Yeah, you know, you can always bring up examples of where, well, with this player, but they're not the same player, right?
No, they're not.
Just because it happened with one guy, you know, like just because it happened with one guy doesn't mean that they have the same. And I mean,
I didn't say it would. I just said, yeah, you know, the only concern I have, and I would have made the trade in a heartbeat. I repeat,
right.
The only concern I have is that Montreal is a different beast, and the pressure could probably get to. Like, I don't expect him to say, like, yeah, you know what, I'm worried about the pressure. You come in, you say all the right things, right? I relish the pressure, and I've always played well under pressure. And you know what? Everyone hopes that he will relish the pressure.
I think that he wants it. He wants to be motivated. He wasn't like you're talking hockey hinterland, with no disrespect to Columbus and Winnipeg compared to Montreal. And you know, when he played for Finland in the World Championships in his draft year, I think he led the World Championships in goal scoring. Anytime he's played on good teams and competitive teams, he's excelled. Like Winnipeg that playoff year, with when he was 18, the World Junior Championships, they upset everybody. Him and Puljujärvi were just lights out. The World that playoff year, he played in Finland. He won the MVP, playoff MVP, at 17 years of age in Finland. So since he'd been a pro, he hasn't played on winners. He hasn't had the pressure. And I really think, yes, it's possible that, like Drouin, it will happen with him, but he's not a French Canadian too, Tony. There's a difference there.
You're right about
that. Drouin was from Montreal. He couldn't turn on the radio station in French or English without being ostracized, I'm sure. Couldn't pick up a paper. You know, the hometown boy got traded for Sergachev, which was a top 10 pick. Well, Laine wasn't traded. Nobody's going to get that crazy about Laine if he doesn't. He didn't get traded for a top 10 pick that they became a really good defenseman. So he doesn't have that pressure. The media is only going to be so hard on him, I think, in comparison to Drouin, because he's not a hometown boy. You know, he's not. He wasn't traded for a top 10 pick. And I really think that it's going to be. It's just going to go well for him.
I hope so. And I will give you this: that a lot of media will lay off of him because you know, he's coming back from being in the player assistance program, where Drouin hadn't had that, and then obviously at one point entered the player assistance program.
Yeah, and also, Tony, if you remember, Drouin was tasked with being the first line center. He got brought over, and they moved him to where they shouldn't have.
Correct.
They made him the focus. Who were his line mates? Like, he didn't have Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky, and Doc to play with.
I think he had Pacioretty, did he not?
Yeah, but he had to play defense. Defensively, he had to play center. He had to check. He had to be the guy back. It was just, he was set up to fail.
Grant,
he
you're
had
talking to a
ready,
guy.
but
Yeah, you're talking to a guy who grew up idolizing Guy Lafleur, and then after that, he grew up idolizing Stéphane Richer. So I love 50 goal scorers. Like them, I try and do my show on the attack the way they do their game on the attack. So look, I'm really ecstatic about this deal. Really, once again, I think they had absolutely nothing to lose.
I think he could score 50 goals. I really do. I think that's and I loved that he said that. Do we have that clip? But I think it's just fantastic.
If we can, Shane Gaumont and Master Control, if you can bring it up.
Patrik Laine want to be a complete player, but I'm curious to know with the change of scenery, do you believe that next season you can come back as a 30 goal scorers and maybe even more?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to come back as a 30 goal scorer. I want to come back as a 40, 50. I've done that previously, and it's not by accident, but it's not just all about that. I want to come in and do whatever it takes to contribute to the team and make the team win, whether it's me scoring 50 or scoring 20, as long as the team wins. That's all I'm about. I just want to win. I'm kind of getting to that age as well. I'm not 19 years old anymore, so I just want to win. I know how important that is, how much fun winning is, and it's obviously been tough missing the playoffs the last handful of years, and obviously second year being in the conference finals and seeing what that's like. It's all we play for. That's why we work out during the summer, and obviously train as hard as we do to get to those games, and haven't been fortunate enough to get there in the last couple of years. So I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to contribute and take the Canadiens over there.
So Patrik Laine in the National Hockey League, his first season with Winnipeg, 36 goals in 73 games. His second season, 44 goals in 82 games. His third season, 30 goals in 82 games. His fourth season, 28 goals in 68 games. His fifth season, he played a game with Winnipeg. He had 2 goals, and then makes his way to Columbus, where he had 10 and 45. And then with Columbus, 26 goals in 56 games, 22 goals in 55 games. And last year, 6 goals in 18 games. His playoff totals, 8 goals in 24 games, so a goal every 3 games. He hit over 40 once in his career, but once again, this guy has scored a lot of goals. And, Grant, here's another thing, and I've said this, where I take a look at the Canadiens and I say, okay, he's thick, but Suzuki's 5'11", Newhook is 5'11", Cole Caulfield is 5'7", Gallagher's 5'9", Harvey Pinard is 5'9", Lane Hudson is probably 5'10", and I don't think the Canadiens have a big team, but acquiring Kirby Dach a couple of years ago, drafting Slafkovsky first overall, and now they just acquired a guy who's 6'5", 220, and probably even more than 220, but listed at 6'5", 220. Man, they just, bigger players are harder to move from the front of the net, and if they lean on you, it gets pretty tiring. They've gone from a small team to a much bigger team, just like that. Yeah.
And another thing, like if he does play with Slafkovsky and Dach, 3 top 3 picks, all 6'3" plus. Like I think Slafkovsky's listed at 6'3" now, but I mean they're all 220 plus. Has there ever been a line with that pedigree and that size that could be potentially play together? Like Francis Lemieux and Yager, even Francis was only 6'2". Like even that line wasn't as big as this line could be. And just how tough would they be to stop on the cycle when they get going? It's just there's a lot of potential there. I'd love to see that trio. And like you say, even you can have them with Suzuki in there. There's a lot of different combinations. And now I love the top 6 potential. And that's without Demidov. Wait till Demidov comes in. Then, you slide Newhook back to third line center. And wow, the top three lines in Montreal 2 years from now are going to be, who do you check? It's just going to be it's going to be very exciting.
So let's just say you get your wish, and Kirby Dach, drafted 3rd overall, has Slavkovsky on one wing, drafted 1st overall, and Laine on the other wing, drafted 2nd overall. Who do you put to complete Suzuki and Caulfield?
Well, those guys have had such good chemistry together. They've played well with whoever's been on their wing. So, and then if you slide those guys down to against second lines as opposed to first, I see them excelling, whether they have Slavkovsky on their wing or not. But Newhook played well with Suzuki, I thought, when put on the wing with those guys.
He did, yeah.
Josh was another, like either one, whoever, I think Roy and Newhook are going to battle it out for the 6th spot, and whatever the line combinations
definitely see
are.
that on home ice. On the road, they might be tempted to put a bigger body. And I know they've tried Josh Anderson before and it hasn't worked out, but
yeah,
who knows, right? Who knows?
Suzuki's such a good defensive center, though. I don't think it matters if Newhook is so fast. He, that I think that they can cause a lot of headaches for a team too, and Caulfield's quick too. That line, I would have no issues with that being your second line, Tony. Newhook, Suzuki, and Caulfield.
Yeah,
they go from being the top first line to being the second line. That's
so you're ready for this?
Yeah,
I think Kent Hughes has everything it takes to be the best Montreal Canadiens GM since Sam Pollock. And I'm not going to put him ahead of Serge Savard just yet, because the Senator obviously won the Stanley Cup in 1986 and in 1993. But he's the best GM the Canadiens have had since Serge Savard. I think there's no question.
Well, he keeps making moves and drafting guys that I want him to, so I can't argue. I can't argue with it.
It seems to me that everything he does makes sense. And you talked about him waiting to the point where he got Patrik Laine and a 2nd-round pick for Jordan Harris, a player that was probably going to be put on waivers and he was going to lose for nothing. I mean, and if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, you could say that he got Patrik Laine. He gave up Jordan Harris for a 2nd-round pick. He is a stockbroker. I have never seen a Montreal Canadiens GM operate like a guy who's playing the New York Stock Exchange more so than Kent Hughes. I think Jeff Gordon is a businessman. I think he's very diplomatic. I think, like good businessmen, he bluffs every now and then, the way he bluffed everyone when asked about Demidov and made it look like, their meeting was over in 2 minutes. And yeah, he's a nice kid, but you know what? We don't have more interest in that. And then boom, he drafts him. And Kent Hughes, being the stockbroker that he is, I mean, they have a businessman and a stockbroker running the Montreal Canadiens right now. I mean, they're in really good hands. Really good hands. I mean, Jeff Molson, this one here, my friend, you've never got it more right in your life.
He got it right this time.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, big time. I agree. And Marty as coach too. I think, he's got to be licking his chops, like you say.
Oh yeah. He's got to be licking his chops. And, we talked about Pascal Vincent before, and, it would have been easy for Pascal to tell the Canadiens, don't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole, because Patrik Laine didn't deliver to expectation under Pascal Vincent. It would have been easy for Pascal Vincent to say, don't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole. But obviously, for the Canadiens to make this deal, obviously they consulted with Pascal Vincent, and obviously Pascal Vincent gave a pretty good reason for why Laine struggled.
Yeah, I think so.
And, so
They did their homework. They always do. Bob Rov would have been in on it too. He has his hands in everything and is, talks to everybody in the league. And I'm sure he was in on the homework assignment too. And they went over it with a fine tooth comb. We're comfortable with it. If they're comfortable with it, Tony, we should be comfortable with it. Fans should be comfortable with it. The media should be comfortable with it. I'm comfortable. I'm more than comfortable with it because I thought that was the move for them to make, well, since January, like when I first wrote about it.
So the Canadiens announced this deal, I think officially around 3:48 p.m. Eastern time. There were rumblings before that. I think Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet was the first one on it. Kent Hughes, by the way, had a chance to speak with members of the media as well. And he said he spoke with Patrik Laine before the trade. Let's hear from Kent Hughes.
Just on Patrik himself, obviously the circumstances of his last season going into the program and coming to a place like Montreal, I'm just wondering what you kind of unearthed in your homework and your conversations with him that reassured you that you can inject this player into the culture that you've built with the Canadiens.
Well, I mean, for starters, Eric, we Don Waddell was gracious enough to, which isn't always the case in when you're negotiating a trade, that you have the ability to talk to a player before acquiring his rights. But Don was gracious enough to allow us to speak to Patrik, which Jeff Gorton, Marty St. Louis, and I did over the weekend. To just get a better understanding of his journey to where he is today, the struggles that he's had, and what he has done to put himself in a better place. We came away from that conversation very satisfied. We did a lot of other homework. I don't want to get into a lot of detail about that out of respect for Patrik and those people that we spoke to, but Patrik and Don were also gracious enough to let us speak to and consult on the medical file and just have the conversations that we felt we needed to have to be comfortable moving forward. And everybody involved came away very, very comfortable with Patrik. And we also spoke to him about Montreal and the pressure that comes with this market. And as I said, he didn't shy away from it at all. In fact, I think he is looking for this type of a market to come play in.
He doesn't only want to score goals, Patrik Laine, but he also wants to win hockey games. Let's hear Kent Hughes on that.
I imagine you'd agree there were some red flags concerning Laine, and I imagine this wasn't a short process as far as getting this trade to go through. I'm just wondering, what was your biggest concern going into discussions with him, and what did he maybe say or do that convinced you he was ready for everything that comes with playing in this market?
I think more than anything, Patrick's comments were that the things that he wanted to or felt he needed to work on weren't hockey related, and that he is very confident in his ability as a hockey player. One of the other things that he said repeatedly in our conversation was wanting to win and wanting to be part of something. And I think by now from us, and even dating back to comments we made on Slav before we drafted him, we're looking for people that want to be part of something and part of what we're trying to do. And it's not for me, it's not for Jeff Gorton, it's not for Jeff Molson. It's not for any one player. It's for all of us as an organization. And Patrik left us with the impression that he wanted to be part of that.
All right. Patrik Laine, pretty excited. Let's hear from him.
I mean, no, first of all, yeah, I'm obviously super excited to go to Montreal. Obviously I kind of lived that in Winnipeg of how crazy hockey is in Canada, and now obviously going to Montreal will be even crazier. So I think they have a good thing going over there. Obviously, great organization, new really good head coach, a lot of young talent, and I feel like I'm at that point in my career where I can kind of guide guide these young guys. And, since I've been around for a few years now and kind of seen a lot of things. So hopefully be helpful in the locker room and obviously on the ice and bring my expertise and, bring the cup to Montreal. So that's kind of my goal for now.
All right.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that comment, Tony, just if I can interject for a second. And I brought that up and was thinking about that before the interview. Like, he basically was one of the younger players always up until, like in Winnipeg, he was the kid, right? The immature kid. And now in Montreal, he's one of the vets, and he's got to be mature. He'll be asked to mentor, and that's that's a different situation. I think he's done a lot of maturing over the last year, and he realizes that, hey, actions and words have consequences, and that I think maybe he's had issues before with teammates. I think that's what we got gleaned out of what Waddell's been saying in the last week and what Patrik said. I get the impression that he hasn't always got along with teammates, I think.
Yeah.
And that was a big reason why he went into the program, I think, to get his, not to be negative. And I think he maybe was too negative at times. And he touched on it a few times, like, think about the glass being half full. It's opposed to half empty, not dwelling on things and being happy. And let's hope that he is. And because Montreal, it could be so exciting. I think they could catch a wave here where it snowballs, and how crazy the crowd can be when things are exciting and the team's winning. And it just might they could just skyrocket and he might excel. So I'm very excited about this season. It's just, I already was before they picked up Laine, but now, wow.
Grant,
I wish I was a season ticket holder.
If it works out, okay, I could see Patrik Laine saying, you know what? They gave me a chance. They went out and they acquired me when no one else wanted to. And you know what? I like the coach. I like the system. I like the way they play. They're scoring goals. Now Demidov's coming, this, that. Slavkovsky's long-term, Caulfield's long-term, Suzuki's long-term. And I could see him extending for several years at a lower salary than he makes now, so that he can fit in and it can work. Because if he wants to be part of something special, if he wants to win, Lord knows, I mean, that's the goal for the Canadiens. I mean, they're trying to they're trying to win a Stanley Cup. And that's why they signed all these guys up long-term. And I didn't even mention Caden Gooley signed to a long-term deal and stuff like so. Man,
good point, Tony.
Demidov coming and Fowler around the corner and Lane Hudson and the power play. I got to tell you, I'm excited. I'm excited. I've said this before. I think the best defense is a great offense, and I think the Canadiens are going to have a really, really good offense. I mean, and whether you make the playoffs or you don't want to make or you don't make the playoffs, people want to see goals. People want to see offense, and people want entertaining games, and I think the Canadiens are going to give it to them. I really do. I'm excited. Really, I am. We can cut the clip right now. We can put it out there. Whether it works out or it doesn't work out, and everyone's hoping that it works out, I think the Canadiens had absolutely nothing to lose. I would have done this deal any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Good for you, Grant, for writing about it back in the month of January. Good for you for bringing it up about a month ago. And, some didn't like the idea. I always like the idea of adding more offense. And if it works, it works. It doesn't work, it doesn't work. And, I've always been of the belief that you can work with players. They don't have a good defense. Well, there's bigger problems. You know what a bigger problem is? When a player can't produce, and it's hard to teach them offense. But you can teach a player defense. And you know what? Even if you can teach them a little bit of defense, if you have to close your eyes on the little bit that you can't teach, you close your eyes.
Yeah. And I really don't think he's a poor defensive player, and he can be physical. He can compete. And I especially saw it whenever he was in big games, like that playoff series. I watched I watched every one of his games in his draft year in the playoffs in Liga. and he was just so clutch. He scored goals in the last minute to tie, to win. He was just, he can be a winner, and he wants to be a winner, I think.
Yeah.
It'll make him happy. Well, Montreal's on the rise. He can be a mentor for the young guys. Hey, he starts clapping some goals with that slapper, from the left side there. The crowd's going to go nuts and embrace him, and he'll just soak it up, and it'll only get better from there. So I think it's a genius move. I think it's going to work, and I think the Canadiens contend for the playoffs right from this year on, Tony, the next decade.
Grant, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to go back to the 2016 draft now. Come draft day, and to boot, Austin Matthews as a centerman. Austin Matthews was the consensus number 1 pick, but earlier in the season, there's some that had Laine at 1. Did he not? Like, there was talk of Laine being number 1 over Matthews during their draft year. Was there not?
Well, I ranked Laine number 1. I right to the end. Well, I mean, because of what he did at the end, he was just so good. And there were people, it was a question mark. Matthews ended up going first because of the center, the centerman. Yeah. But I think it was close for a lot of guys, and for me, I had him number 1. So I've always
liked the guy. Yeah, you've always
and I've always pulled for him, and I've always thought the Canadiens should try to get him. Years ago, I said they should trade when Winnipeg traded him. When he was looking at trading him, I thought the Canadiens should have got him then. So I look forward to, when you're drafted 2nd overall, you always remember who was drafted 1st overall. And he's played well against Matthews before in the past. And I look forward to now them being division rivals.
Wow.
And extra motivation there, Tony, right?
Yeah.
I bet you he plays well against the Leafs. I really do. And maybe in a playoff series down the road. Wouldn't that be something?
The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Accent Insurance Solutions. All insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you. Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product right on the money, whatever your insurance needs are. Home, automobile, or business. 363-3636 and the 514 area code is their number. You can visit their website, www.accentassurance.com. And a shout out to Manta Sleep. Use code SICKHABS for 10% off on your order. What is it? It's basically a sleep mask to give you the best possible sleep. It's very cushiony. It's adjustable. It's personalized fit. It's absolute comfort. Believe me when I tell you that. Mantasleep.com is their website. I think everyone should be sleeping with one of these. My wife is sleeping with one of them on right now. It's a Manta Sleep, and use code SICKHABS for 10% off. Grant, I'll ask you now, are the Canadiens done dealing prior to puck drop in early October?
I think so. I don't see any holes there right now. The defense is set. I don't. They needed that one more piece for the top 6. I like what's available for the bottom 6. I think they're done now. I can say that was the missing piece, and they got it. So I don't see any more deals. I think they're ready to roll.
We put this out there on social media. Once you found out the Canadiens acquired Patrik Laine, give us one word. So if you want to write one word right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, one word, put it out there. And of course, check out our Twitter handle at The Sick Podcast, and check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. If you haven't already, tell your friends about it as well. And if you like the show, comment SICK, S-I-C-K, share it with your friends. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. Grant McCagg of the Recruits Draft Cast podcast. Thanks so much, Grant, for being an awesome guest tonight. As usual, we'll talk to you soon, my man.
See you, Tony.
For Shane Gaumont and Master Control, it is very late in the night, very early in the morning for me here in Spain, but it was worth it, and you all deserve it. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast. Habs acquire Patrik Laine. Season ticket holders are happy. Those who aren't want to become season ticket holders. Bleu, blanc, rouge. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Tibi, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.